All right. You ready to go, Beverly?
We are set. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Say good morning. I send greetings to each member and to the citizens of Chatham County and to our customers who support public transit. I would like to call this meeting to order. Time is 10:02. Beverly, can you start with a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Board of Directors. Director Emister. Director Odell. She's entering the room right now. Director Stone.
Present.
Thank you. Director Lockett. Director Lockett. He's present on mute. Okay, Director Adams.
Unmuted.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Director Adams. Director Robinson.
Present.
Director Leggett. He's present and muted. Director O'Halloran.
Here.
Chairman Cody.
Present.
Chairman, you have a quorum for today's meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beverly, I'm present also.
Thank you, Director Leggett.
Okay, next we have the adoption of today's agenda, October 26th board meeting. I would like to call
Make a
for a
motion, we
motion.
adopt.
Second.
Beverly, can you please, do we have any discussion? Beverly, can we do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Director Emister. Director
Series
Emister.
on, Beverly. I think his screen is up.
Okay, thank you. I see his name. Director Odell.
I'm sorry, we're voting to approve the agenda?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes. Yes.
Director Stone. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Lockett.
Yes.
Director Adams. Director Adams. Director Robinson.
Yes.
Director Leggett.
Yes.
Director O'Halloran.
Yes,
Chairman Cody.
Yes,
Motion passed.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Mr. Mikhail Cates. Mr. Cates has been invited today to introduce or reintroduce the hovercraft transportation system to the board. I have spoken with him and thought it was important that he shared this concept with you and staff for consideration. At this time, I would like to turn the floor over to Ms. Ragland, if you had anything to add.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to you and to the directors of the Chatham Area Transit Board, as well as those who are joining us this morning. I'd just like to reiterate that the presentation has been forwarded to the board members in advance in the interest of time. So Mr. Cates, you may move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Dumas, you were going to, okay, so everybody's just going to look at their copy is what we're going to do.
We're going to share the screen. One moment, Mr.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go. So I understand I have limited time and everybody has a copy. So this actually goes back to the board of 2009, where the CAT board, this concept I brought to them back in 2009. The CAT board voted to give me, I'm a grant writer, to give me, as well as other things, but $5,000 to go toward writing a grant for this transportation plan with a partnership with CAT. It was voted unanimously. However, due to some unforeseen circumstances with the CAT administration, it never really got off the ground like it was supposed to, and it meandered for a number of years. So about 3 years ago, Mark Spadoni, we got back together pre-COVID, and Mark was interested in this concept to provide beaches for his folks who are staying at the hotel. So we put another plan together. We revised what I did before, and I'll just go through it very quickly and be glad to answer any questions. The way on page 2, the way this shapes out is this. It was back then, and it is today, a public-private partnership with CAT. And I write grants. I'm a consultant for Georgia Ports. I've been there 20 years. I write grants for Georgia Ports and Imperial Sugar, where I'm at today. The public-private partnership concept allows you to do a couple of things. It allows you to solve some of the problems within the transportation between Chatham County, Beaufort County, and excuse me, and the other county over in, which slips in my mind right now. But anyway, to allow you to come up with a transportation plan that actually works for both parties. If you have a joint venture of some sort between not only neighboring states, but neighboring counties, the feds look at that in a very positive way. Jasper County was the third county I was thinking about, which is the most impoverished county, if you will, in South Carolina. So both teams working together, it could be viable for both states and counties. Page 3, we envision a possible LLC being created. I just put this together as an example where Chatham Area Transit, my company, whatever that would be, and then we create a transportation company. And I want to reiterate, this is not a concept that takes the ferries. That we're not talking about ferries. We're talking about a whole different plan here. So it was set up to be operated and be a for-profit center. So I'll give a couple of examples of mom and dad are staying downtown, and they want to go to the beach for the day. Everybody knows how bad traffic is, not only to Tybee, but also getting over to Hilton Head. So we have it to where we could transport that individual or family down there. They get a golf cart for the day. They come back, at the end of the day back to their respective hotels. So you eliminated emissions off the road. You've eliminated a vehicle. So we think back then and even today it's more important. So we have another example in the text where one of the problems is there's not very much affordable housing on Hilton Head. And I know you might ask, why do we care about neighboring counties? Well, there's a lot of people, in doing a census, there's a lot of folks that live in Chatham County that work on Hilton Head or Defusky or vice versa. And fighting traffic is just one of the issues. And even today, from 11 years ago, there's still not adequate transportation. So what we've done is we've provided a marine experience. We've eliminated vehicles off the road, transported the visitors safe, so on and so on. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on each one.
Join the meeting.
So could you go ahead and go to locations to be served, Ms. Dumas? Go ahead, hit again. I should have been telling you to do this. I apologize. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, one more. And this is a back up. Okay, yeah, let this run right here. This is just a really short video of what we would be using in the Port of Savannah to go from downtown to Tybee, from Tybee to Defusky, and from Hilton Head back this way. These boats are very quiet. They're about 72 decibels when you're running. This is a 25 passenger. We would like to have 225s and 246 passengers. 46 passengers run 60 miles an hour. The smaller boats, 25 passengers, run about 45 miles an hour. These are like aircraft. They're sealed. They're very quiet. They provide a really nice experience. It's about 20 minutes from downtown to Tybee, about 20 minutes to Defusky, probably about 35 minutes to Hilton Head from this direction. And then of course you can come back the other direction. We don't, there's nothing in the water to create any obstacle to hit any wildlife or anything like that. These all have Tier 4 engines, which are what the EPA is requiring all trucks to have now. They actually have Mercedes engines. They're very, again, very efficient and very quiet. At 25 passengers, this boat's only using 5 gallons of diesel fuel per hour. So that's a trip to Tybee and back. It's burning 5 gallons of fuel, hauling 25 people. Okay, you can go on to the next one, please. Okay, next slide, Ms. Dumas. Thank you. So the locations that would be served would be from Savannah to Tybee, from Tybee to Melrose, Melrose to Hilton Head, and from Savannah to Defusky and back. And then from Hilton Head to Defusky, Defusky to Tybee, and from Tybee to Savannah. Next slide, please. I just named the 5, essentially to build it out, you'd need 5 vessels. On the right-hand side, that's the important information, the revenue generated. All revenue projections here are based on 50% capacity. In the census at Hilton Head, they have about 26,000 visitors in the summertime peak. You know, we have 1 million a month. So the economics from here really are impressive. Next slide, please. So the Bumblebee, the 2 big boats, 46 passengers out, both have dual engines. The 2 smaller ones have single engines. And then there's the last one is basically a half passenger, half maybe for supplies and stuff like that, transport boat. Next slide, please. The goals would be to provide transportation for visitors, employees from downtown to Tybee. Also very important, provide hurricane evacuation from Tybee. That's a real problem. Everybody knows it. And I put on the thing I sent to Ms. Dumas, the 1-page handout, is there's FEMA money out there. There's also DOT money for reducing emissions, but there's FEMA grant money out there, particularly when these are used for evacuation, whether it's man-made or natural disasters, getting people off the island in the summertime when you have an accident and or a drowning. This gives Tybee a mechanism to get around that 2-lane road. Same for Defusky. But it also could provide emergency backup for the Coast Guard, Metro, and so on. Next slide, please. This is the 46 passenger. Just a shot of what it looks like. Next slide, please. This is a 25 passenger. Next slide. This is what it looks like on the inside of the 25 passenger. These are all built to design. So they would, you can have them laid out any way you want to. Next slide, please. This is a console. It's all joystick controls. These are not called captains. They're called pilots that run these. Next slide, please. This is one that's made in Australia we looked at. This is 25 passengers, a little more upscale. Plus, it has a twin engines as opposed to a single engine on this one, the prior one you just looked at. Next slide, please. This is the inside of that particular boat. As you can see, it's laid out more or less like an aircraft. They have heads on them, so there's restrooms available. They're sealed tight, atmospherically controlled, and again, very quiet. Next slide, please. Console of this one. Again, they're all joystick control. Next. So the groups that we've met with so far have been Savannah Fire and Rescue because of the ambulance capabilities. We've met with Chief Hadley. We've met with some of the board members, including Chairman Cody and Vice Chair Stone and Miss Odell, and also made a presentation to the Convention Center Board. There is quite a bit of interest from the Beaufort County folks, and they've agreed to come over in a couple of weeks, meet with a group of us, a group of county city officials, and they see this as a win for them because there's a lot of people over there again that work in Savannah that have to make that treacherous drive from Hilton Head or Defusky to Savannah. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll send out an invite. We would probably have the meeting over at the Convention Center so we could actually show them what CAT has done with the transportation portal out there. That would be very important for them to look at it. So that there'll be more to this coming. Next slide, please.
Hey, Mr. Scott. Hi.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Can I call you back? I'm on the cat board meeting right now.
And that's just a job report. Next slide.
About an hour or
Is
any
that
other time.
Mr. Adams? One of your lines unmuted.
Sure.
This is actually, this is the indention on River Street. About 10 years ago, I had Thomas and Hutton do a design where you could actually have a floating dock over there and it would pull right up and load. Now these hovercraft will dock at a dock just like a traditional boat. They can pull up, you can shut them off because essentially they're a boat under the air cavity. So this is just a little concept drawing. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the important one here. So if you have the 5 vessels to the left, calculating at 50% capacity, the end result at the end of a year is we've generated $2.4 million in revenue. Now you got overhead, some stuff that comes out of that, but that's just revenue after your cost of operations. We expect to pay, excuse me, a pilot somewhere between $35 and $40 an hour to operate them. And one of the concepts would be is if we could partner with CAT, partner would actually derive revenue from this pool of money. I did some other calculations, many different ones, but if you took and got 1% of the 15 million people that will come to Savannah next year, it's 150,000 people. That's incredible amounts of revenue. And I used to still do some tours, but I had some yachts at the Westin, and there are a lot of people every day that drive to Hilton Head that want to go to Defusky or want to go to Tybee. They have to drive. There's really not an alternative. And we think we can bring an alternative to everyone, create a really cool event from the marine standpoint, and also generate a lot of revenue. The average ticket price would be $25 for round trip service. Could be a little more than that going to Hilton Head, but say from Savannah to Tybee. So as you can see, at 50% capacity without doing anything, we could easily do $4 or $5 million a year in revenue. Next slide, please. Also, additional revenue can be generated by ads being placed in the cabins. These are very nice cabins. There's room for advertising in there for restaurants, lodging, various things. Obviously, the website is another area where advertising could be done. It could be tours. The boat could be used for tours of the port. There's also a genuine need for deliveries of material or stores that they can't get timely from Hilton Head that could be delivered from Savannah. And again, the possibilities are endless. Next slide, please. And again, this is just something projected salaries and benefits, 35 to 40 per hour, and it would include a comprehensive benefits package for the pilots. Next slide, please. In March of next year, hopefully around St. Patrick's Day week, I have got a manufacturer that is going to bring a vessel to Savannah for a week to basically show everybody what it would do, how it runs, how it operates, give some rides to the various governmental officials and stuff like that. So that's right now in the works as we speak. Next slide, please. Just showing you the average maintenance cost per vessel, spare parts is $26,000 per year. Very, very economical to run. Not a whole lot of maintenance involved. Next slide, please. That's just the cost of getting the boat over here or from down from Canada. Everybody would have a copy of that. Next slide. So we've been meeting we went over to Fusky, we met with the Beaufort County people. They've indicated over the phone to me that they're willing to buy a dock on Defusky. It's right at Melrose. It's the Melrose dock. They're looking to purchase that as a landing point for us. And also in Hilton Head, there's a new area that's been rezoned over there for a ferry terminal. So Hilton Head's going to come to the table with 2 landing sites over there and a participant with actual funding. So we hopefully the lady called me yesterday to set it up. So I would set a meeting up with them hopefully in the next couple of weeks where they would come over and everybody would sit down and kind of talk. Next slide, please. That's next slide, just more of the Beaufort County stuff. Okay, that's it. That's a very quick surmise of it. Has anybody got a question that I can answer for?
And Mike, I have a quick question.
Yes.
What is the Coast Guard feeling on these for like the Savannah River usage?
Glad you mentioned that. Okay, so these all meet Coast Guard regulations. However, they do fall under something called the Jones Act. They're not made domestically. They're made in Australia and they're made in Canada. I've actually have a letter that I could produce for everyone from the manufacturers that they would, basically you have to set the keel here. The keel has to be set or you're penalized. You can bring them here, but you're penalized by capacity. So they have expressed interest in opening up a manufacturing plant here. They would build these here and test them here, but also continue to manufacture for the US. Yeah. So your question, Michael, is they're Coast Guard inspected. They would be just like any other vessel, fall under Coast Guard rules, both for transportation. Since there's nothing in the water, theoretically, you could go across the marsh, but you wouldn't do that because the DNR would get all excited. So they would traverse the river. They'll handle up to about a 1.5 meter wake, which is almost 6 feet. So it's something that I think that we have the perfect application for with the river channels that we have and the needs of both states and both counties that have.
And what about handicap access?
That would be something that we'd have to address. It's not addressed in what I presented to you today, but as we indicated, the boats are built by design. So if that's something that we really need to include, rather than maybe having manpower to lift that individual on and off, we would have to certainly look at that. So, but it's not included right now, Michael.
I have a
And
question.
these, I saw
Go ahead,
one or
Mike.
two more.
Okay.
The pilots have the same licensing and registration as our ferry
It would be
pilots?
what we call a 100-ton captain. I'm a captain, 100-ton captain. But it's a little higher end as far as what you're controlling. You're controlling 2 engines that are basically propeller driven engines. It's part of the package. They would be trained here to be able to operate them. You can't just take a pilot or a captain and put them in one and they'll drive it. There is about a week's worth of training that you have to go through.
And the FTA will fund these?
So vessel, yeah, they've been funded prior to this by the FTA. Yes, sir.
Okay. And I noticed too, they also don't really need a dock if there's a beach.
Well, back in 2010, I actually had the DNR to agree for me to pull up on the north end of Tybee on Polk Street where there's parking available, and they agreed to do that. But I don't think the DNR is going to go for that now. The whole environmental things changed, nor I don't think it would be appropriate to ask. We would probably
Okay, so you would need a dock in every location.
Well, what we would do is probably dock at Lazaretta Creek and then we could actually have a CAT bus, a 15-20 passenger bus there, ferrying people there from the dock to the golf cart location and back and forth for a fee. I mean, people would pay $5, $6, $7 to go to the island and back to get the golf cart to use for the day and then come back to the dock.
Okay, I think it's a great idea. I think it definitely deserves some further discussion and more meetings to get to that point.
Yes, sir. Okay,
But
thank you.
Question.
All right, we got
Robert,
Helen, I got Ms. Odell, I got Director Leggett, and all right, let's go.
Yes, sir.
Helen, let's go.
Thank you. Great presentation. How is this going to work in conjunction with our port traffic with the ships. I mean, you're on the street, there are a ton of ships coming in and out. And I know hovercrafts, I've been on them before.
Yep.
They travel at high rates of speed. So I'm a little concerned as to how this is going to impact.
Well, Ms. Stone, there is a speed limit as working for the port. I meant, like I said, there's a speed limit downtown. When you get just beyond the Savannah River Wharf dock, coming up the river, coming toward the port, there's a speed limit that would have to be adhered to. Once you get past a vessel, then you can operate safely. But that's part of the training, and any captain should know that. I mean, that's not a good question, but when you're operating around the vessels, but the boats the older boats now that traverse once or twice a week from Hilton Head or whatever, they do the same thing as a regular boater like I am. So it would be safety.
Okay, I just am concerned because if you are on River Street for any length of time, you see the number of ships coming in.
Yes, ma'am. Good question.
Thank you, Director Stone. We have Director Lockett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
My
sir.
question is, what is the life expectancy of one of these vessels?
The life expectancy, I'm told, could be anywhere from 10 to 20 years as long as you maintain them. Their engine change outs are about 10,000 hours. The rubber bladders that inflate, those are really dependent upon, if you pull up on a beach, they're going to wear out a lot quicker than if you pull up to a dock. The warranty on them is 1 year by one manufacturer, and you can get multiple year extended warranties. But you have someone trained to maintain them, and that's the important thing, is to make sure that you maintain them. But I would say we could get 10 years easily. You change an engine out probably every couple of years, every 2 to 3 years, based on the number of hours per year. Does that answer your question, Mr. Lockett?
Well, yes.
Okay. And I'll be happy to get more information if you need it, more details. No problem.
Director Leggett. You had a question?
Got his mic muted.
You're muted.
Mute.
You're muted, Director Leggett.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think what Director Stone was asking also, and I asked,
Yes,
have
sir.
you also had an opportunity to speak with the river pilots and with Georgia Ports to see how we're going to navigate the river during the time that the ships are coming in? And
well, okay. To answer your question, I did back years ago. I haven't lately. Traffic's picked up, obviously. I will say this: the Savannah River is a federal waterway. I used to water ski in that river as a young tyke here. You cannot ski in that river anymore. It's a federal waterway. However, any boat that's in the river has just as much right to be there as any other vessel. Yes, the ships are big, but again, all this would have to go. I am on the Maritime Security Committee here in the port with the port and Coast Guard. I know the captain of the port. This will all be handled from the top down. I have not talked to GPA. Chris Rice, who's over operations. I know Chris, when the time comes, I would bring GPA up to speed. I don't anticipate any problems. If you follow the rules of the water, and there are rules just like anything else, I can't see where it'd be a problem. Pilots aren't going to worry about it. I know Trey Thompson. I actually supply some technology at Tybee to the pilots. So I know Trey. So talking to these folks, I understand what they do and how they do it. And I believe that I believe we can answer all questions and put all concerns to rest.
I think the same way Dr. O'Halloran said that there's going to be a lot of conversations, because if we stand behind this and we launch from wherever we're going to launch from, we want to make sure that all of our T's are crossed and all our I's are dotted. And because when it fall back, it's going to always say that we didn't do something or one thing. But
I agree. Yes, sir.
Riders our staple, and we want to make sure that we do the best that we can with safety measures in place. And now that we're talking about moving people around on a waterway. So I look forward to the demonstration once it comes, but I'm going to always look to make sure that our ridership and safety is at the forefront of what we do.
Yes, sir. I agree. No questions asked there. No problem.
Thank you,
Anybody
Director
else?
Leggett. Director Odell.
Good morning.
Hey, Ms. Odell, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Mr. Cates, this looks like an excellent public-private partnership.
Yes, ma'am.
It's something that would be an extension to the ferry service, which we already ferry people across water back and forth now.
Yes, ma'am.
And it would extend that service.
Right.
It's also something that we've been discussing that I remember since 2012. So it'd be nice to see it finally get off since it's been taking so long to get it to this point. So
Yes,
I congratulate you for holding on to a project and pursuing it this long. It's been a long course. It's been a long
like I
course.
told everybody, I've told some of my friends, I just went on Medicare last month, but I'm bound and determined to do this hopefully before I leave this world. Now, remember though, the original intent was to write a grant to get funding through the FTA for this. However, I would love to entertain at some point down the road the possibility of using some of CAT's already in hand federal money to at least get it started from the standpoint of the purchase of a vessel or maybe two vessels. However, I will be more than happy to, any more information y'all need. But I have all the groups that we made a presentation to. It's all been very positive. Yeah, there's always concern, but let me add one quick thing. You brought up the ferries now. You're crossing in front of vessels right now.
Right now. We're already crossing. We're already putting people on the water.
That's right.
So we could really look at this as an extension to the ferry service.
Yes, ma'am. You could, if that's what y'all wanted to look at it like that. I'm saying I'm coming to you as a separate entity, but it's up to the board to say what you want to do with it. That's all.
But as a public-private partnership, we have multiple options, correct?
We do. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you, Director Odell. I have Director Adams.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Where will these hovercrafts be housed?
Good question. We would petition CAT as our partner to use the facility, the CAT portal over next to the Trade Convention Center as a docking point. We could work with the city. I am going to make a presentation to Sean Brannon and his group and the new city manager. That's in the works. We would have a pickup point on the River Street. As far as Defusky would be at Melrose, they have a nice dock over there. And then on Hilton Head, somewhere around Broad Creek Marina, right off of the main, off 278. And remember, this is a for revenue or for profit entity. So we're in it to make money. And I would tell you that, I don't know if you have a grant writer, but I can certainly, we can write grants every year to get funding to replace everything, upgrade, add vessels as necessary. Excuse me.
Join the meeting.
So does that answer your question, Director Adams?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One other question. Will this just be a CAT venture, or do we have to enter into ventures with all these other municipalities?
Well, I think what we would do is, and that's an excellent question. Until we get this is a fairly new concept for our area. I don't know if there's a public-private partnership between states and counties on the water at all. There might be transit-wise, and it might follow I guess there's a coastal transportation entity here. We might follow that path, but that hasn't been crossed yet. But that's a good question. I'm sure that Beaufort County has an interest, just like Chatham County would. So they're interested in. There's a lot of people over there, that would come to Savannah that are staying on Hilton Head, but they have to fight the traffic. And this is, we expect to have a 12-hour schedule or longer a day. And then there is actually entertainment on Defusky that we would probably keep a boat later in the evening so people can enjoy that island partying over there. And then have a safe way to get home back to Savannah, let's say, or back to Tybee. The other thing I would tell you is from Chatham County standpoint, Tybee, DeFusky's coming back as far as the golf courses and all. And that's the one thing that Tybee doesn't have. It doesn't have any golf courses, but it's got some good restaurants. And DeFusky doesn't have but 1 or 2 restaurants. So therein lies some good, it's 10 minutes across the bay from across the sound from Tybee to DeFusky. So it's a 10-minute ride to get you some great entertainment or great meals or whatever. So there's going to be a lot of conjecture with the islands themselves.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just one other quick point. Can this be used along in the intercoastal waterway as well?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, once you got a Coast Guard certification, I mean, yeah. I mean, it'll be a water vessel and can be used in any river. Yes.
So that could be connected as transportation sites up and down the
Well,
intercoastal.
actually, when we go down the Savannah River in front of Southern LNG, you'll actually turn left if you're coming from downtown, and you'll be in the intercoastal waterway.
Right. Okay. You're right. Yeah.
Until you get over to Hilton Head and Tufusky.
Yeah, because
So
that's a
yes.
horrible ride. And 278 is going to be under construction for
That's right. And
next 5 years.
yep.
Minimal.
So this is going to be a benefit to all. Everybody gets something out of it.
Right. Well, thanks.
Okay, you're welcome.
Have any more questions? Comments? I got Director Adams.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Have we looked at the insurance piece on this yet?
No.
No.
Okay.
No, Director Adams, what I'm trying to do is basically do what I did 12 years ago, get the information out, build a coalition. Here's what we want to do, and then systematically go once you have some sort of an agreement. And I put a 1-page document that I gave Ms. Dumas to give y'all items for board consideration. I don't know if she gave you a copy of that or not, or maybe email it to you. But that's one of the things, is to systematically go through these things, getting everybody on board, having commitments out of both Chatham County and Beaufort County. And then you can start working on the public-private partnership, legal ease, if you will. And then you start moving on ahead and setting up, the things you need with Tybee, so on and so forth, or the other county or the other locations as well. So we haven't got there yet. That's a good question, but we just haven't got that far yet. And I don't see getting that far until we have the demo here. I think that 1 week will offer a lot of information, answer a lot of questions. To everybody. Ma'am? I'm sorry? Okay. I'm done.
All right. All right. With that being said, thank you, Mr. Cates, for
Thank you very
great
much.
presentation.
Appreciate
We
it.
look forward to getting up to speed on that process.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I got a quick question on this real quick. The great presentation. This could be very exciting. I just like the triangulation of bringing all these places together.
Okay.
Because right now the water is by far the fastest way to do it. And I could see so many opportunities for marketing campaigns between Visit Savannah, Visit Hilton Head, some of the DMOs in the area. Have you contacted or had conversations with folks around getting the messaging about this out there?
Yes, let me answer that real quickly. So we move ahead and we get the boat here in March, okay, for St. Patrick's Week or whatever. We have a huge PR deal going on. We announce it publicly. We have rides down there. You can, do rides during the day while it's here. And I think at that point is when you kick it off. Okay. That's when you do the PR campaign. Now, if you folks think that, or people tell me that we need to do something earlier than that, we can, but that was just my thought. That was all.
I think in the budgeting, as we continue on, definitely keeping in mind the cost of marketing as well, making sure that it's well marketed and reaching folks
Now,
But yeah, great presentation. Thank you.
thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I can be reached. They have my phone number. Ms. Dumas does. If you want to meet individually or you want to just sit down and talk, I would be more than happy to meet with anybody. And I appreciate the time.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Butler.
I have a couple of quick questions that I think I could defer in the interest of time if you would like for me to. And unfortunately, my Zoom connection is cut in and out, so I've missed most of Mr. Cates' presentation. I don't want to rehash things he's already answered, but I do have a couple of questions if I might.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cates?
Yes, sir.
This is Ty Butler, CAT's attorney, and as I said, unfortunately I missed most of your presentation because of my Zoom connection cutting in and out. But I noticed, I think that these vessels are manufactured in Canada.
Well, there's a manufacturer in Canada, and there was one manufacturer in Alaska, and they're teaming up with the group in Australia. So the Australian group, we have two entities. There's actually a third one in the UK that's been around, but they don't, the smaller vessels like we want, the under 50 passengers, I think are these other two companies do a better job in my opinion. But yes, sir, they're not.
Okay, well,
yeah.
Okay, well, my question actually had to do with whether or not the vessels would satisfy the FTA Buy America procurement requirements.
Well, you might have not heard, but I have got a commitment out of them that if we order, they would actually come here and build the boats in Savannah, test them here, and actually hand them over to us here in Savannah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, they would continue an operation for the domestic U.S. out of Savannah, and they go put people to work.
All right, and again, you probably covered this, but are the vessels themselves approved or certified by the Coast Guard for operation in the Savannah Shipping Channel?
Well,
Savannah River Channel.
They are U.S. Coast Guard approved. They're internationally approved as well. So they follow the international agreements as well as United States Coast Guard. And I made this clear earlier. I sit on the Area of Maritime Security Committee here in the port with the Coast Guard and in the port and everybody else. So I'm cleanly aware of what the rules and regulations are. Yes, sir.
Okay. And the third question, and this, yes. I think you may have touched on this, but a number of years ago, there was an effort among Chatham and Effingham County and Jasper and Beaufort County, South Carolina, for a bi-state compact for both water transportation across state line and ground transportation. And we went so far as I drafted together with co-counsel from the American Public Transit Association a bi-state compact that would have had to been approved by the legislatures of both Georgia and South Carolina, and then by Congress and the Interstate Commerce Commission. And at the last minute, when we were about to launch the thing, inexplicably, Chatham County pulled out of the whole thing and it collapsed.
Yes.
Were you aware that we had gotten that far with that a number of years ago, many years ago?
No, because I've worked on this thing from 2009 to around 2011, and the gentleman from CAT, my apologies, but I think he actually went to prison, the chairman. So it kind of fell apart at that point. I apologize for saying that, but I mean, that's what happened. And we did not get that far.
This was further back, and in fact, it was back when Billy Hare was the chairman of both CAT and the county commission, and Chatham County launched a thing and enticed Jasper and Beaufort County, South Carolina, and Effingham County, Georgia, who joined in, were very enthusiastic about it. And for some reason, Chatham County, meaning both the county commission and CAT, withdrew from the effort. But we do have in the can a bi-state compact between Georgia and South Carolina to cross the state lines. But again, it would require, and this is similar to what was done, it's patterned after what's done, New York, New Jersey, Port Authority.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
And Illinois and Missouri, St. Louis, East St. Louis. And it would have to be approved by both of the legislatures of Georgia and South Carolina and by Congress and the Interstate Commerce Commission. But we do have something in the can that's a long way down the road with regard to that.
Good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir. Okay. Thank y'all very much.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Yeah.
All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gates. Moving on to items of action today. We have 8 items on the consent agenda. I believe all of these items went through committee. I would like to call for a motion and a second. Then we'll go to discussion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second.
Do you have any discussion? Yeah, Director Odell.
You're muted, Director Odell.
Several issues with number 7, which probably would have to be discussed in executive session.
I agree.
All right. Yes.
Okay. Chairman, if you would like, we can move that item down to individual action
Yes.
or table it until we come out of executive session. Is that the request?
I think we can table it until we come out of executive session.
Mr. Butler? Would that action be appropriate?
Ty?
Maybe ask Andrew.
Yes, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, he's back.
I couldn't hear your question, Beverly.
We have one item on the consent agenda.
Beverly.
Yes, sir. We have one item, number 7, on the consent agenda that we would like to move. Well, discuss during the executive session.
You're breaking up again, but what is that item?
It's the FY 2022 budget modification. Does that need to be discussed in executive session?
I think it can be because it's a personnel matter.
Yeah.
And that's what the executive session is dedicated to.
Yep.
We just have to amend the motion to move item 7 to right before old business.
I'll make that adjustment to my motion.
And I'll approve the second.
Beverly?
Thank you. And I'll do the roll call vote.
Yes.
Director Emister?
I've just got a quick question on I believe it's the bus and bus facilities grant, the one with the purchase of the diesel buses.
Yes, sir.
And I apologize if I did not ask this during committee.
Are you asking to move it?
I'm fine with just getting an answer real quick and leaving it on the consent agenda. I'll very likely vote yes on this either way. I just wanted to get a little bit more information.
But right now we're voting to move number 7.
Right.
Okay.
So you'd have to bring that up after we vote for number 7.
Yes, we already have a motion and a second.
Do we do that for consent agenda items?
We're moving this off the consent agenda.
Yeah, I don't think that needs a motion.
Yes.
It most certainly does need a
Yes,
motion.
we changing, so we have to make a motion in a second and vote on it.
Okay. Well, then I'd like to amend that motion to also remove item 4. If Helen would like.
I'll accept that.
And that would be moved to individual action items.
Okay, so number 4 is moved to individual action. Y'all, they were moving them to 2 different sections. You need 2 different motions. Because number 7 is being moved to executive session, isn't it?
To old and new business.
To old and new business.
Yes, ma'am.
And you want number 4,
To
you want it
invi-
moved or you just want a discussion? Because we're still in the discussion phase.
There is
So
no
you can-
discussion on the consent. We have to move it to do discussion and individual.
So you're
Right.
gonna move it to an individual action?
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then the motion
Okay,
will
so-
cover the 6 consent agenda items as is.
Okay, so we
Yeah,
need
that can
2
all
mo-
be done in one motion.
Yes, it can, I believe.
Okay, so you gotta state it, right?
Okay, my motion is to remove number 7. I believe it is to old and new business. Is that where you want to put it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we have to, Helen.
Okay, all right. And the second is to remove number 4, as I understand it, to items for individual action. And otherwise approve the consent agenda.
I'll
I think
second
that's
that
right.
modification.
Okay, thank you. Director Emister,
Yes.
Director Odell,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Lockett,
You got
Director
to
Lockett.
unmute, Bobby.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Director Adams,
Yes.
Director Robinson,
Yes.
Director Leggett,
Yes.
Director O'Halloran,
Yes.
Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Motion passed for items 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 8.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have now entered into the part of the agenda for the executive director's report. And
Chairman.
Department of,
Now,
yes,
we got
need
to
a-
do the action item.
We
Cody.
have the individual action item number 4, bus and bus facilities grant application. We'll need a motion and a second.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
My question on this mainly is the diesel buses that we are replacing. Are we replacing them with electric buses?
We have to vote first.
No, I don't think we vote first. We're now in
Yeah,
discussion.
you have to do, you have to vote
Motion.
on the motion and then, oh, wait, no,
in
No,
discussion.
no, I'm
No.
in the, never mind. I'm still trying to figure out where we are. Okay.
All right.
Hey,
And
Shalonda.
Mr. Governors. Your
Good morning,
question?
Director Edminster. I did hear your question. No, sir, for this grant, we're just replacing it with diesel buses that have reached the end of their useful life.
Okay, is there, what is our electric bus policy though? I'll have to take a look at that because I imagine this would be a good opportunity to switch them out with electric, but I also could absolutely understand that right now we have not yet really had a good handle of having electric buses here with us. Purchasing them is still a bit of a risk. What is our policy moving forwards with purchasing buses and deciding whether or not they're going to be electric or not?
Aren't the electric buses a separate grant application?
They are, Director O'Halloran, this under NOLO, and we are currently evaluating and trying to determine the future of our fleet, of diversifying our fleet, whether we are going to continue with the purchase of electric buses or replace with diesel or another type of bus. So we are evaluating that now.
Right, but the grant we're applying for is strictly for diesel bus replacement.
Yeah, they do allow Director O'Halloran for NOLO, but we, for electric, but we really try to focus on the NOLO for electric bus purchase.
So there will be opportunities for other purchases of electric vehicles.
Yes.
Definitely.
Because
if you recall, that was
my concern during my committee meeting as well. Because if we're trying to be environmental friendly and fuel efficient, I think we should.
Yes, ma'am. And I do remember you bringing that point to the forefront. But for us to be prudent with making these decisions, we have to first test the electric buses. They have not been tested yet. So
they're not even on the road yet.
that's correct. So with this opportunity to replace some of those diesel buses that have gone past their useful life, we want to take advantage of this opportunity to have them, just to have them as a safety net, if you will, while we're going through the testing and through the implementation of the electric buses on the streets.
And
We're not
when
there
will that
yet.
be?
Well, Clever, as you know, Clever Devices, I know you've been hearing this for several months, but Clever Devices is scheduled to be on the property this week or next week to start installing the intelligence systems for the buses. And then we can move forward with testing them on the roads.
And that'll be 3 to 6 months to get some kind of working knowledge of the vehicles, I'm assuming.
Yes, sir. The operators have to go through training. The mechanics have to go through training as well. So it's a process.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
And I want Director Adams' coffee mug. That's the biggest one I've ever seen.
Not coffee, it's tea.
It's got to be a gallon jug. I'm done with my joking.
Any more discussion? Beverly, we can do a roll call.
Yes, sir, Chairman. Director Emister,
Yes.
Director Odell,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Lockett,
Yes.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Director Robinson,
Yes.
Director Leggett,
Yes.
Director O'Halloran,
Yes.
and Chairman Cody.
Yes,
Motion passed, Chairman. Thank you.
thank you. All right, we are now going to the agenda for the Executive Director's Report and Department updates. We'll use this time to hear staff. Ms. Ragland, I turn the floor over to you for unit updates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the interest of time, I have included the director's report in your packet, but I wanted to note specifically that the day-to-day operations for Chatham Area Transit continue to be challenging, both on the fixed route and the paratransit side. But I want to always thank those dedicated employees who have sacrificed many, many hours of their personal time to help us during this crisis. I just want to make sure that I acknowledge them and thank them for doing all that they can do. And also I want to recognize that this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we had a mobile unit sponsored by the St. Joseph Candler Hospital here on last Friday. And we were able to schedule 12 mammograms from among our employees. So I consider that a success. I just wanted to bring that out. And we'll move on now to the service delivery and safety update with Mr. Dumas.
Good morning
Good morning.
to Chairman Cody and the members of the CAT board and to our listening audience. Your service delivery and safety report is included in your board packet report, but we'd like to give you highlights of our reports for the month of September. So next slide, please. Our fixed route performance target is 70%, and our on-time performance is slightly down compared to this time last month. Next slide. Our fixed route ridership is up for the month of September and compared to this time a year ago. However, it is slightly down from last month. Our on-time performance is slightly down compared to a last month though. So we're not far off, but our numbers, our average is 119,646. That's our average for the month of September, or for the year, for the 3 months, our July, August, and September. Next slide, please. Our Our on-time performance is down for the month of September compared to last year for our paratransit on-time performance. Target is 93 and we were at 86. Next slide, please. Our paratransit ridership. Our ridership is slightly down from the month of September compared to last year. However, it is up from last year. Next slide, please. I also want to note prior to going to the next slide that CAT will be hosting having a job fair next month, the week of the 15th of November. And the intent there is to go all out to hire employees to cover all the vacancies that we have, particularly when it comes to drivers and operators for fixed route and paratransit service, so that we can continue to improve on the numbers and meet the demand. Our demand continues to increase for paratransit users, and so we have to get the proper staffing on board in order to meet those demands. Our paratransit top 5 on-time performers are Aretha Hooks, Nicole Lloyd, Wendy Wilson, Jaquita Jenks, and Michelle Newsom. The two, the Rita Hooks and Nicole Lloyd, were above our 93% target. So we give kudos to all of them, but especially those two who are above our targeted range. Next slide, please. Our CAT mobility reservation form. We have an increase where our mobility reservation continues to increase. It is up, continue to go up for the last 3 months. So we're doing better there. We hope to continue to get those reservations. Every reservation we get there helps us in the long run. We're having this information already scheduled for our users. Next slide, please. Our water ferry ridership. Our ridership is up for September compared to this time a year ago. Again, the last 3 months are down compared to the normal earlier times in the beginning of the year. But when we get to this time of the year, school's back in, so our ridership does have a decrease, but it is higher than it was this time a year ago. Next slide, please. Our means and distance between vehicle failure target, we have improved for the month of September. So we're doing better, having less, the vehicles are getting better performance while they're out on the road. So this is good. And we're grateful that our maintenance department is doing a good job keeping our equipment up and running. Next slide. Our call center customer service, our call wait time has improved with less waiting time before calls are answered. And that means that they're working hard to make sure that they get the calls answered as quickly as possible. Our wait target time is 60 seconds and we're way beneath that, 40 seconds for the month of September on average. Next slide, please. Our call center customer service. We have an increase. Incoming calls still remains to be high, yet our call wait time continues to be less than our targeted time. So call center is doing a real good job. Next slide, please. Our top advocates for answering incoming calls are Barbara Sanders, Ophelia Williams, and Alicia White. And again, as we're grateful that when the increase of calls are going in, all of our staff are doing well, but these three have done exceptionally well. So we want to make mention of them during our board meeting and updates. Next slide. The next slide is an update for COVID-19, and Mr. Hall will give us a brief update. Do you have any questions for me before I turn it over to Mr. Hall?
I just had 2 quick comments, really. Kudos to maintenance for being able to keep up the good work. I know the loss of Mr. Boatwright was a big shock to the whole company. But seeing those numbers staying as well as they are, kudos to those who are picking up the pace for Steve now that he's no longer with us.
Thank you. I agree. I concur. All right, Mr. Hall.
Mr. Dumas, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
As to the water ferry, is there any consideration with staff as to extending those hours from what they are now to longer operations, specifically on Friday or Saturday?
We have not had that discussion. I don't know, Ms. Ragnar, do you have any additional information whether or not we are in discussion of increasing? I know that the ridership is down, and usually we tend to do that when we have an increase or influx of increased riders.
Yes. Currently, we do not have any plans to increase those hours, especially with the shortage of staff. We haven't had the demand. We are usually notified well in advance when there are additional needs, but we have not had those requests at this time.
Okay, I would just recommend being in contact with the folks that rely on the ferry for business and commerce, to make sure that we are meeting those needs when they do come up. I think definitely being in conversation with specifically with the folks at the Westin and the not the visitor center, convention center, will be important. I just know for them, like, that's a very critical piece of transportation for them.
It is, sir, and we are aware of that. We're very cognizant of the fact that the ferries transport people across, especially from the convention center. Of course, with the Rock and Roll Marathon taking place, that we have extended hours specifically for that event. So we are aware, and we are in communication with them. Usually we start a service at 8, and on the day of the marathon, for instance, we're going to begin at 5. So those are concessions that we are making for events, for large events like that. But we are still having shortages of staff that would allow us to do that, to offer those services. And we're working on that. As Mr. Dumas stated earlier, we have a very vigorous recruiting fair planned, and we're hoping that during that time that we'll be able to attract some of those pilots or captains.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And don't we usually have a decrease in ferry usage during the winter? Normally.
We do, and as indicated in the report that the numbers are down. They typically go down this time of year. They are slightly up compared to last year at the same time, but they're still down.
Which is, but if you go back to 19, the numbers are probably 60%.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we may have to include that so we can see that difference in the reports. Because, the fluctuations from last year are maybe not as significant because of COVID. But if we look at the numbers in historical perspective as of 19, when there was no COVID, it's going to tell us a much different story on usage.
Yes,
So
sir.
maybe we can add one more year to that graph.
Okay.
I mean, it's the same with the call center. I noticed there's like a 30% increase in calls, but that's compared to COVID.
That's correct.
So that may not be, because it looks like we probably need more people in the call center based on those numbers, and it's really not necessarily true. So maybe if we take all those back one more year and go with our last full year of service of 2019, it'll give us all a better idea.
Yeah, and regarding the call center increase, those numbers increase typically because of the shortage that we have, and so you're having to cancel, and so therefore you got more calls coming in because the individuals have to call repeatedly to try to get on schedule. When we have the right numbers, we expect those call numbers to go down, not up.
Yeah, the whole driver problem is going to be with us for a while, so we're going to have to get used to it, because I don't see any massive influx of employees coming in tomorrow. Hopefully, but we know what the history is.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hall, at this time, will you give us a brief update on COVID, please?
Okay, I focused on Chatham County numbers for the month. I think there was a graph that showed that there were a total of 38,233 cumulative cases in Chatham County, and there were a number of 619 deaths. One of the numbers I wanted to take a look at is the 7-day average. So notice the numbers are actually trending downward. We are now at, as of the 19th of October, the numbers were less than 50 cases per day in Chatham County. So if you go all the way back to September, where we first started seeing the numbers trend downward, it's been a consistent trend downward. So that is some good news. I know periodically we are asked how many employees we had out from CAT as a result of COVID. I think for the month of September, there were 16. So the numbers are trending upward as they're trending downward in Chatham County as a whole. So we are still standing steadfast on our mask mandates. We're still ensuring that all operators and staff are wearing masks. We're still imposing the federal mandate of wearing masks on buses. So we're still doing our part to make sure that we're working towards trending the numbers downward and plateauing out for the balance of the year. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. We'll move forward to the system development update with Ms. Roundtree, please.
Yes, ma'am. Let me just get my screen. Should be coming up in a minute.
It's up, but it's
okay,
not
you
in
can
presentation
see.
form.
Okay, you can see that. Okay.
Yes.
Just one moment.
While we're waiting, I thought the staff did a great job on that newsletter about breast cancer. That was very well done.
Thank you. Mr. Eric Curl and Sarah, they do great jobs over there in communications.
Yes. Very pleased with seeing that.
Okay. It's not coming up. Let's see.
Like I said, we're seeing it, but it's not in presentation.
Yeah. Okay, let me just.
But you can go ahead with that.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Great. Okay. Good morning, CAT board members. I'm sorry for that delay. This morning, we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about marketing and communication. So that was a great segue of Dr. O'Halloran. As you can see, we continue to publish the CAT inbound employee newsletters and CAT outbound employee newsletter, community newsletter. It has been a great communication tool that employees look forward to receiving and being a part of. In September, we distributed 5 editions of the employee newsletter, CAT inbound, and 3 issues of the CAT Express electronic newsletter, and 1 issue of the printed CAT outbound. So we encourage you that if you are not subscribing to, please subscribe so that you can still receive these important updates. And I wanted to just thank, as Dr. O'Halloran said, Eric Curl, he continues to do an awesome job in publishing these important newsletters. Our text notification service was launched in 2020 as yet another tool for engagement and as a way to keep employees updated on CAT news. The texts include notifications of major service alerts, about meetings, events, career opportunities, and policies. And the alerts are sent directly to phones. As of October 7th, we had 124 employees subscribed to the service. And on our customer notification team, on October the 7th, we had 195 customers subscribed to this service. If you are not a subscriber, you can sign up for the service by simply texting RideCat to 41411 to subscribe. In our marketing and communications, we just wanted to highlight that on our online pass sales, we have had 136 passes online amounting to 1,132 in net revenue. On our token transit, 2,177 passes amounting to 12,232 in gross sales. And on our coverage for our media advisories and news releases, we're proud to say we've had 4 media advisories or news releases were written by CAT staff. And last but not certainly least is our social media engagement. We have had a steady increase in our social media and would like to encourage our customers, the public, employees, and even our board members to connect with us to one or more of our networks. During the month of September, our largest reaching post was to express our condolences over the recent passing of our CAT veteran, Mr. Richard Richardson. And as you can see, we have had a steady increase. So we encourage you that if you are not connected to any of our social networks, so please do so. And I would like to also acknowledge Sarah Feldman for continuing to do an excellent job in managing our social media. And that is it for this presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Roundtree. Thank you so much. Ms. Cutter is now coming forward with the financial services update.
Good morning, everyone. I'll be presenting this morning the financial update for September, but I'll be taking a snapshot, a look at the entire first quarter for comparative purposes. As you all know, the budgetary basis for fiscal year 2022 was really based on conservative funding letters, driven by the impact of COVID-19, ridership and fare revenue reductions, adjustments in administrative staffing levels, unbudgeted expenses that are before us with the vaccination incentive, matching grant funds, staffing realignments, which leads to budget modifications, grant amendments to fiscally manage our CRISA funding, which is 100% coverage in lieu of 5307 funds, which is 50-50 or 50-20. Still the unsettled paratransit wage negotiations, marine services ridership continue to increase, and we're still dealing with staff vacancies, adjustments for that. And then of course, position vacancies in fixed and paratransit impacting overtime. A comparative review of our finances for the first quarter of fiscal year 22, July through September 2021. The chart gives you the revenue and expense detail in numeric format and provides the variance. The chart graphically displays the numbers. In the month of July, that was the only month in the quarter wherein revenues exceeded the expenses. As you all know, the expenses are budgeted evenly over the course of 12 months. In August, you will see, and if you follow the red variance line, you will see that the variance for July was positive. And as we continue throughout the first quarter, we will see that our revenues was trending lower than expenses. The cash flow for the period, if you look at July in comparison to August, it went down. It's back up for the month of September at 4.8 mils. The projections for the remainder of the fiscal year, it shows up through the month of December and trending back down and going back up in June of 22. This slide is operating revenue by operating category. The chart gives you the detail in numeric format, and then the chart below, it does a graphical comparison for you. If you look at the yellow and the gray line, it closely touches. Yellow represents year-to-date actual, and the gray represents year-to-date budget. So we're kind of neck and neck. Passenger fares, there's a slight difference there, but we're trending very close. Revenue by category, as normal for Chatham Area Transit, the bulk of the revenue comes from grant proceeds, followed by monies that we receive from Chatham County to cover paratransit expenses. Expense category by operating program. Again, the format is the table reflects the numbers, and the chart below gives you a graphical comparison by operating category. If you look at fixed route, and again, we'll talk about the year-to-date actual versus year-to-date budget. In fixed route, you see a gap between the actual and budgeted expenses, which is good, holding expenses down in a time of low revenue. And that's pretty much the way it looks across the board. With paratransit, it's getting close, keeping in mind once the negotiations are settled, we will do the pay retroactively to cover July, August, and September. And that line will pretty much be right on point with budget or a little more. If you go down, maintenance, expenses are down, and also on the general and administrative side of things. The table above gives you the actual numerical comparison that you can relate to the graphic below. Expenses by category, again, no surprises here. Salaries and wages and benefits is where the bulk of the expenses are, and then followed by insurance that takes up 10% of the budget. And as we continue to move forward, emphasis is on compliance, streamlining the accounts receivable and payable process so that our vendors are paid timely, moving forward with utilizing the Munis system to prepare the 2023 budget. We're also moving in the process of cross-training internal staff in the area of accounts receivable, accounts payable, and procurement, so that anytime one of the designated employees is out, we have someone to come in and fill in so that our payment schedule is still met. Budget prep, we're training in preparation for kicking off late December, early January. Currently working on a budget prep user guide that will be used in the event we are successful in using our Munis system for the preparation of the fiscal year 23 budget. And lastly, the 10-year financial planning, as CAT decides whether or not to move to totally electric or stay with partial diesel, expanding the ferry system or other modes of water transportation. The financial planning will mirror that and plan to bring something forward to the board in the near future. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
I actually had one, Stephanie. That $4 million increase in December, is that all tax revenue from the county? You had a cash flow jump from like 5.3 to 9.9.
The timing of receipts of cash flow primarily from the county. Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. I know there's two periods you pay twice a year.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
How many of the variances in expenses are due to new expenses and not something that's routine?
When you say how many, are you speaking of which a certain category?
Okay, so like in August, we had a variance of 915. Were those routine expenses that just increased in cost? Or were there several new things that we weren't budgeted for?
Kind of a mixture. Could you go back to the slide, please? Dion?
Yes, ma'am, I'm going there. Just one moment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Some of that may be the insurance costs too. I know we had some jumps there.
Yeah, timing of when significant bills are due, timing of hirings, those type expenses primarily. Go to the expense slide, Dion. There you go. Okay. Right there.
He doesn't want to stay there. We got to go back one, I think.
Back one. Yes, and it back by operations category, you can kind of see where the gaps between expenses and actual in budget.
I'm concerned about general and admin.
Yes. Okay. Well, we have had some changes in staffing. We've had the COO to resign. We have some interim people in that slot and in system development. So that's what's driving that gap. Now, as positions are filled, that gap is going to close. And you'll be able to see that as positions are filled, you'll be able to see in the month of October where changes, have been made, not only in general and administration, but also on the fixed route side. You'll also see the impact of paratransit. Hopefully we'll get through the negotiations by then. But as the pie chart showed, the major source of expense for Chatham area transit is in wages and benefits, and it drives the gaps between actual and budget.
Thank you.
Director Stone, did you have a question?
I'm just, looking at our overall finances and saying, are we sound going forward, in your opinion? We've had, and I don't know whether CAT has recognized it. We have had some infusion of additional funds through COVID. And I want to make certain that when these funds are no longer available, that we're on solid ground.
Very, very good analogy, Director Stone. I'm really keeping a close eye and encouraging procurement compliance, budgetary compliance, calling the attention to overages, really staying away from touching the 4 million in reserve funds, because this federal assistance is going away. And we're also going to have to start focusing on new revenue sources. Once that federal funding goes away, it's going to be very, very, very tight financially for CAT. And we don't want to be reliant upon borrow funds to cover operating expenses. So,
right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions?
I actually have one for Ms. White. Where are we on, I guess it's Charles too, I'm not sure who has the answer to this. How are we keeping track of employee vaccinations? And where are we on a percentage scale?
So that is actually something that I was looking to address when I started. I know that that is a combination between safety and human resources. At this time, I don't have the updated numbers. The last number that I had, we were a little over 30%. I believe Charles can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that we were. Am I right, Charles?
That's correct, of the members who participated in the survey.
Okay, so what we will be doing is we will be initiating a new survey to collect, more recent and accurate data, and then we'll be reporting that.
And are they giving you the vaccination results?
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Are you getting confirmation on vaccinations?
I am not. I'm sure that Tandra, which is the HR manager, she may be getting them. The thing is, there's a program that I would like to roll out, but that's something that we can discuss in another session on how we can do re-education and how we can readdress, what we're looking forward to and talking with our employees about. That's just something that we need to talk about in a future meeting.
Okay, I'd love to see us start collecting that data, because it isn't a HIPAA violation to ask for a vaccination record.
Dr. O'Halloran, if I may, in the past survey, what we asked was, have you had one vaccination? Have you had at least one? Have you had 2 shots? So, and then I just wanted to say, we really don't get a true feel for our employee base, because out of the almost 300 employees that we have, 50 might participate. So we really don't get a true reading of what our vaccinated population really looks like.
That's why I'm saying we have the right to collect that data. HIPAA, it's not a HIPAA violation to ask for their vaccine records. So I don't know what the legal ramifications of that are, but
yeah,
we're way behind what even the Georgia average is, which is terrible, and we're way below that.
Right. No, you're absolutely accurate. As an employer, we can require for employees, as terms and conditions of their employment, to produce any type of COVID vaccines, and we absolutely will. That's something that I wanted to talk with as a group before I make any comments on what the strategy will be moving forward.
Okay, just as long as we're looking into it, because we're getting at the point where this is going to get worse. There's another variant out there, and they believe it's more contagious. And, there is a mandate for vaccinations, and I brought it up multiple times, but I don't see where we're interested in doing that. So I
Well,
don't know what else we can do.
and I think you're speaking of how President Biden is going through OSHA to mandate that vaccine. But Ms. White and the executive staff, we have been in discussion with that. And as she stated, she wanted to set up a education program, if you will, before mandating that, or to discuss mandating with employees.
Well, not that I agree with that, but if that's the feeling we have, then I can't make anybody do it myself.
We certainly can talk about that when we go over the presentation. Again, me coming in 3 weeks in, I have to look at what's going on with the OSHA rule, but I also have to look at our staffing needs, where we are, where employees are, and we have to really be strategic, and we have to be proactive and lay out a plan before we mandate things. And so my job is just to research, provide that research, and educate, everyone on this call, so that we can make a sound and educated decision moving forward that will assist and help CAT and also help the employees and the individuals that we serve.
All right, well, I'm not sure education is going to get us there, but let's keep looking at it.
Thank you, sir. And that would conclude the staff's reports and updates, but I would like to ask Mr. Vacker at this time if he would like to provide any updates. You're muted, Mike.
Now I think I'm unmuted. Can everybody hear me? Sorry, I think everything that I have is pretty much updated in the report that I have provided. I do know that we are waiting for the attorneys for Chatham, Garden City, and Savannah to meet to determine what the next steps are relative to expansion. And I did have a conversation with the mayor of Garden City, and they are anxious to hear that information so that we can determine what the next steps forward are going to be. I will be in Atlanta starting next week, off and on for the next 2 weeks during the special session, and will utilize that time to start moving forward discussions on what would be potentially possible from a legislative agenda viewpoint. And in addition, we will be holding some talking sessions later this week to begin to flesh out what CAT's legislative agenda will be.
Are you working with the hovercraft idea as well?
I am not.
To involve a couple of your places.
It's an interesting concept to look at. I think that not only hovercraft could be in play at some point in time, but I do know that we are aware that there will be new funding sources in the pending infrastructure bill that would provide grants money for pilot programs for electric water ferries. So that is something that we're keeping our eye on as well. Obviously, one of the items that we're going to be looking at moving forward this legislative session will be funding sources, not only to secure the funding from a match that has been promised in the past, but also to go after new monies out of the state to help fund not only securing additional water ferries, but see if we can break a hole in the wall so that we can possibly look at operations and maintenance funding as well.
And when is the expansion on the center going to be finished? Do they have a start and finish date yet?
I don't have a finish date. I know it's either late next year or early in 23. I know that the last tranche of funding, excuse me, is scheduled to come forward in this legislative session to the tune of around $90 to $93 million. And so obviously tied with that and the potential or reality for a new convention hotel at the western end of Hutchinson, and the fact that progress is beginning to move forward on further developments at the western end of the island with K property development, which will include a hotel as well. The need for additional water ferry service will probably manifest itself over the next 2 to 3 years.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. And I'll be glad to answer any other questions anybody would have.
Also, Mike or any other board members, when I was on Visit Savannah, Sherry Spinks from the Convention Center has a really good grasp of what's going on over on Hutchison. And just given, I think, Ms. Ragland, you mentioned this in an email, I believe, but stuff like this takes 2 to 3 years to build or to order or to purchase. And so if we want to have service in place for when the expansion is open, when these hotels are open, we need to start having these conversations right now. And I would recommend reaching out to Sherry if you guys have any questions on the timeline for the expansion. She's very involved with that. And as I said, she was, a great Visit Savannah board member and a good ally for CAT.
In our discussions with legislative leadership, including the speaker, we have stressed to them that you don't go to your local boat store and buy one of these like you would a recreational watercraft. It is an 18-month to 24-month lead time because they're only manufactured in a couple of places around the United States. I believe Florida is where these are in fact manufactured. So it takes some time. And so we are stressing to them that we need to be forward thinking. We need to be looking at making these commitments now so that we can have the funding and go ahead and place the orders that are necessary so that these vessels will be available when the need manifests itself. It's not a question of if, it is a question of when are they going to be needed. And we don't need to be waiting until the day we have people standing in lines and can't be served to look seriously at ordering these watercraft.
To answer the question on the expansion, it should be done in the later half of 2023, which is right around the corner.
Very true. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, thank you. That's all that we have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Ragland. Thank you and staff for a great presentation.
Thank you.
Next, we enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters. We have a motion and a second.
I'll motion.
Discussion.
Providing we take a 5-minute break.
Second.
All right. Do we have any discussion before we take a 5-minute break?
Director.
All right. Beverly.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. Director Emister.
Yes, thank you, Beverly.
Thank you. Director Odell.
Yes.
Director Stone.
Yes.
Director Lockett. There you go.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Director Adams.
Yes.
Director Robinson.
Yes.
Director Leggett.
Yes.
Director O'Halloran.
Yes.
And Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passed.
Thank you. We're gonna move on to an executive session. We're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Yes, sir. I'll start the breakout rooms.
Thank you. Everybody done made it back.
Yes, sir.
All right.
We are live.
Now that we are out of executive session, I would like to state that there were no votes or action taken during our closed session. At this time, I would like to entertain if we have any motions.
I have a motion
Yes.
on item number 7.
Yes.
I would like to motion that we table it for additional information.
All right.
Okay, we'll need a second.
Gotta go second. We have a second to table motion, section 7, number 7.
And number 7 is the fiscal year 2022 budget modification. That's the motion that's on the floor to table that item.
We don't have a second.
I think we should just go ahead and motion that we go into a discussion on it.
All right.
Because I believe it's already been made, hasn't it?
Yes.
So I make a motion, we accept the FY22 budget modification.
We have a second.
Second.
Beverly?
Yes,
We
sir.
got to discuss it first. Why don't we have Valerie tell us what it actually was? Because I know we talked about it before in regular session of the committees. But can she give us a rundown on it quickly? You're muted, Val. I know I do it all the
I
time.
I apologize. Modification was made so that we could reclassify some positions to make hires in other areas of need for the organization.
And was this budget neutral?
Yes, it was. Actually, it was a savings.
You know, then I think you've done what you had to do to do that.
It was shown that savings that Director Stone mentioned earlier, the 195, there was a savings at this time for that position because it was reclassified and it is a cost savings.
All right. Any more discussion? All right, Beverly, we're gonna go into a vote.
Okay, yes, sir. Director Emisser? Director Emisser?
Yes.
Okay. Director Odell?
No.
Director Stone? Director Stone?
Cat meeting.
Yes.
Director Lockett? Director Lockett?
He stepped out, Beverly. Oh, there he is.
Yes.
Director Adams?
Yes.
Director Robinson?
Abstain.
Director Leggett?
Yes.
Director O'Halloran?
Yes.
Chairman Cody?
Yes.
Motion passed.
And I'd like to make a motion, we extend the limitation on Valerie's PTO so that she
Second.
doesn't lose the hours she hasn't been able to take.
Second.
Beverly.
Any discussion? Okay, I'll enter into roll call. Director Emisser,
Yes.
Director Odell,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Lockett,
Yes.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Director Robinson,
Yes.
Director Leggett,
Yes.
Director O'Halloran,
Yes.
and Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right.
And I have one more motion to make in
Yes.
accordance with Georgia law that we, as a board, have never approved of severance packages other than for the CEO. And my suggestion is that we maintain that
I second the
the
motion.
time being.
I second the motion.
All right, do we have any discussion? Beverly?
Okay. Director Emisser,
Yes.
Director Odell, Director Odell,
The
Director
yes
Stone.
is to sustain the no severance policy.
To maintain
Yes.
the no severance policy, yes.
Yes.
Director Stone, thank you. Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Lockett,
Yes.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Director Robinson,
Yes.
Director Leggett,
Yes.
Director O'Halloran,
Yes.
Chairman Cody.
Yes,
Motion passed.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any more discussion before we close out today's meeting? I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And at this time, I would like to adjourn this meeting. Time is 12:43.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good one, everyone.
Take care.
you. You
Thank
too.
you.
Good day.
Good day.